Okay, who's here? Who's here? I was on the wrong session there. I was just going hard out, and I was on this morning's session rather than the night session. So let me just switch over. Get that up there. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you for Ryan for working that out. I was in full motion. Ryan, yeah, cut, bail, out you go. So thank you for that. Let's get back on point. Let's start again. Rewind, back to the start. And let's get the show on the road. Okay, I've got, let's see, I've got everything correct here. So before we start, is our recording on? We are recording. This is the correct recording this time, so you'll be able to go back and watch that as needed. So that's that done. What else we got here? What a day it's been. Twitter and LinkedIn. Remember, you can tweet, chat, whatever, out on that under those hashtags as per normal. Mics are muted. We're going to be hard pressed to get any question time in. This morning it ran overtime because there's so much content, and really I feel like I could almost do a day course on this topic. Use chat as per normal to discuss points, or if you've got ideas that you want to throw out there, make sure you do that in chat. Keep an eye on the Facebook group in case anyone else is saying, hey, I wasn't on that other session, but they're in this session. That's awesome. Recording will be posted straight after this. I've already put the Southern Hemispheres up this morning. Oh, sorry, I just put that up now. And the assignment is already loaded up to the website, so you can do that. Please complete metrics that matter. Only 6 people did it last week. 6 people. So even if you're listening to this on the playback and recording, make sure you go and hit metrics that matter. Complete that, please. It'll be much appreciated. And remember, all the assignments, post them on Facebook. I'm finding the videos absolutely fantastic that are coming through. Definitely, I feel that you guys are getting benefit out of this. So hopefully you are. And remember, give me any feedback if there's any other things that you think I should be covering. Okay, so let's talk about brand you. And the journey to creating a personal brand. And so if I look at my story, and what I'm going to do is kind of take you through the path I went on to establishing my personal brand. So when I left high school, I didn't go to university. I didn't have those type of smarts back then, or I wasn't really encouraged in my family. University wasn't a big deal to us in little old New Zealand. So I, you know, like any farm boy would, look for a job that was involved physical labor, and I went and worked for my auntie at a school where I was a groundskeeper. It was a big school. It was the biggest school in Auckland, and there were 2 groundskeepers, and 3 months later the head groundskeeper resigned and I took over. So I was now the head groundskeeper, you know, 18 years old, had a guy, 26-year-old, working for me. And for 3 years I mowed lawns, maintained cricket pitches, hockey fields, and I don't know if anyone's watching the cricket, but just see that New Zealand's into the final. Yeah, a little old country at the bottom of the world. Anyhow, I digress. So cricket, rugby pitches, of course, that was my kind of staple lifestyle, or what I did. And then what happened is I went and worked for a medical company, which my brother was doing as a startup, and we certified operating theaters, mortuaries, medical processes, anything that involved microbiology, pathology, anything like that. We would certify that people weren't getting secondary infected when they were being operated on. So if you're in an orthopedic theater and you're going to get operated on, the last thing you want is a bug to get in your joints while you're all out in the open, cut open. And so we would test for that. So I have seen some pretty freaky things that I am glad I'm no longer in the medical industry doing. I've seen bodies in various states that are alive that were not, just didn't spin my wheels at all. But anyhow, during that period, our company did a website. And so the website was all a cool thing to have, because this was the start of the internet. This is like early to mid 90s. And so that's where I kind of got interested. Wow, this website stuff's pretty cool. I started to do some training courses, and I progressed on this path, if you like, which took me ultimately into a Linux and, you know, Apache servers, Linux servers. I got into internet working, packet creation, everything from how data flows right across the network through the OSIRM. Look at that. I even remember the old ISO standards for data transfer. And That then took me into this whole area of web design. And of course, then ultimately our company needed a CRM system. And that's where I discovered Dynamics in 2003. If you're in the London user group yesterday, that was a question. When did the user group, when did Dynamics first come out? It was in 2003 that happened. So I got that question right in the quiz. But I got into Dynamics and I fell in love with it. But here I was at the bottom of the world. And so, you know, how could I get exposure, or how could I get access? What the big thing that was driving me at that point was getting what was called a TAP program. A TAP was a technology advisory program, and it meant that you got to see what Microsoft was releasing about 6 months ahead of everybody else. And so that was always the edge. You always wanted the new stuff. And so to get on the TAP program, if you're an MVP, you automatically got on. You didn't have to do anything else. So that's drove me to get my MVP, was to get on this TAP program. And so I started a business, Magnetism, in 2005. I was kind of moonlighting doing that. And then by 2007, I went full time and brought in a friend, and we started growing that business. So magnetism was my first foray. I got a registered trademark on the word magnetism, which is a scientific word, which was crazy that I got it. I don't even remember how the idea magnetism came to me, but it did. It had the logo designed. And that's where I really started getting into the design and the aesthetics of things. Did it look good as well as function well? And so at that time, it was around 2008 now, 2009, I started using the NZCRM guy handle. So that was NZCRM guy. And like, you know, I remember a relation of mine going, who's the NZ Crum guy? Because anybody outside the CRM industry had no idea what it meant. And so fast forward 2016, when Microsoft changed the word CRM, I altered mine to NZ365 guy. And this time I specifically went after a few things. One, don't use a product name. So the beauty is 365's, you know, to a lay person, I could be talking about, I'm just living 365 days of the year full on. So it was kind of, it gave me flexibility. And then as I've evolved, I've developed, you know, helping people reach their full potential is one of my taglines that I use. And then more recently, even connect, learn, and share is one that I'm commonly using, which is kind of driving my ethos and kind of how I think. So it's becoming a lot more internal. Even though I might have started with a name, it's like, what is the value ultimately I'm bringing? So my question is to you, when others look at you, who do they see? What value do you bring? What, you know, here are all these people looking at you, and imagine them all looking at you now, all expecting you to bring the goodies, all the value, all the knowledge that you have. What is your response? What are you known for? If I got you to Google yourself right now and put in your name, when somebody, can you find yourself? If you can find yourself, does what is showing there build trust? Does it show you're authentic? Is it consistent? And of course, first of all, are you findable when you Google yourself? So when I looked at, you know, the importance of a name, I found that in my specific case, part of a name, or what a name is used for, is an identifier. It's a way people can identify who you are, or it's a way of associating what you create with who you are. And so I tend now to use it on everything because it's the only, if you like, unique thing that makes me identifiable in a global market. More than ever, because we live in a global market now, the importance of personal brand cannot be overstated. We're in a world now where your competitor is no longer the person down the road from you, your neighbors or the people in your city. They're all over the world. And so how do you stand out when everybody starts to have the same level of skills? Everyone can offer the same level of value. This is where personal brand becomes really, really important, that what you do is uniquely you. One of the books I'm going to talk about, he refers to it, Seth Godin, as your art, the thing that only you can create, because it's part of your personality, your understanding of technology, and the way you can communicate ideas. This is what ultimately true brand is in the market. Everything else is basically how we digitize it, enable people to connect with us, and share the knowledge that we have. Whoops, wrong way. So one of the important things then is also then, what is your mark? You know, what is your brand? Does your brand inspire, as I say, trust? Does it inspire value? Is it unique to you? Is it a unique identifier? When people search for you, will they find you? And findability is such an important part of personal branding. If you search for one of my personal brand gurus, Gary Vaynerchuk, you type his name in, everything's about Gary Vaynerchuk. You cannot get enough of that guy. He is on anything and everything when it comes to social media networks, the web, multi-million-dollar businesses. And he started his personal brand around wine. He became a wine connoisseur and was a seller of wine, which is in the family business. Amazing story about building your brand and your credibility into a global business. Is your name unique? As I say, if you Googled it online, would you find it? As in, do you have the .com version of it? One of the things I learned was kind of like my first lesson when I went to Redmond. I was catching up with a PM. His name was David Pennington. He actually still works in the Dynamics team, in the Microsoft BizApps team. And he was a product marketing manager. And I went into his office, got invited into his office. Another Kiwi took me in there, introduced me around. This is when the MVP crew were just tiny back in 2012, not many. And he was like, oh, yeah, you've been doing that great stuff on Twitter and stuff with magnetism, right? And so he goes to his keyboard and he types in magnetism.com. And I never owned the magnetism.com domain name. I owned magnetism.co.nz. And you know what? It was just one of those kind of epiphany moments for me. I was just like, the rest of the world doesn't know your local country, domain extension. So it was at that point I was like, man, I'm only going to get .com domain names. Now, I know things have changed. There's so many different domain choices. And of course, .coms are in scarce supply. But think about, once again, I talked about your name, and is your name then available on the various social media networks in the same format so you become super findable? So if you look at me, so Mark Smith, right? Here's a pop quiz. Here's a pop quiz. Are we ready for the pop quiz? Who's going to answer it? This morning, one person answered it. The first person answered it got it right. Without me telling you my middle name or initial of my middle name, what creative word name do you think my parents came up for me as a middle name to match this perfect bang? Look at that, Seth. Boom, on the money. John. How creative is that, right? They came up with Mark John Smith. Absolutely dull, lifeless. That's why I have to bring it here, because they didn't bring it there when they gave me that. So this is what I did. So I've now got this brand, NZ365 guy, and people say, well, what does it mean? So pretty straightforward. NZ, or NZ for the Americans on the call, stands for New Zealand. 365 it could be Dynamics, it could be Office, it could be days in the year. It can be anything you really want. Okay, I was going to say a joke, but it's not clean enough to say, so I won't say it. And finally, me, I'm a guy, right? So there you go. NZ365 guy is how it came together. When I went to Australia, everyone was, well, not everyone, people said to me, are you going to change it to AU365 guy for Australia? And I was like, mate, don't get Kiwis and Australians mixed up. It's like Canadians. It's like Canadians. It's like Canadians and Americans, right? Nobody wants to get tarred with that brush. So there's no way, I was born only in one country, and that was New Zealand. Even when I've moved to the UK, people have said to me, are you going to change it to UK 365 guy? Well, what do I do when I move to Barcelona or move on to Milan or something like that? I can't keep changing my brand. You don't see Coca-Cola creating a new Coca-Cola brand per country, even though it might translate their name into different languages. But NZ365 guy is what I'm sticking with. And one of the things I would say on this point is that I've chosen this name and I've tried to avoid any brand reference to Microsoft, even though, yes, Dynamics and Office 365 both have those names in it. But even if they change those names, let's say Microsoft went to Microsoft 365 now, or change it to something totally different, my name, or NZ365 guy, that brand name will still stand no matter that change happening. Even if I change careers. Now, statistically, in your lifetime, you're going to have 5 to 7 careers. I don't know what number you're on to. Look, I've already told you a few of the careers I've had. But the beauty of the way I've chosen this is that it will transcend whatever career. If I didn't even stay with Microsoft, this handle or this brand name would be okay. So let me show you a story. This is me looking up my name in a search engine recently. So 20 years I've been online creating content. Here's page 1. Nothing, no reference to me. Perhaps on page 2. I might have some luck. Let's try that. This is after 20 years of creating content with Mark Smith. How popular is this? Page 3, I'll be on page 3, right? Nothing, let's try images. Okay, let's see, am I on here? No, oh, Theresa May, yep, the Queen, oh, she's not the Queen, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, yep. Nothing, none of these look like me. So that was kind of the quandary that I found myself in, right? Totally unfindable with such a popular English name like Mark John Smith. So I branded, and really a lot of people go, man, how long ago did, like, you've been branding for years? Well, I've been working through iterations of brand, but it's only in the last 2 years that I've been going hard. But this is what the difference is when you start to create a brand identifier like what I did with NZ365 Guy. Page 1. Every single item on this page is my content. Page 2, everything is my content. Page 3, pretty much everything is still my content. Let's go to images. Yep, there I am and all the people I'm associated with. Been on my show at some point. Let's have a look at videos. As you can see, videos all associated to me. So what I'm illustrating there is the difference between having a unique name and developing a unique brand name that you can stand out with. Something unique like Flo Joe, for example. Now, next thing is brand consistency. Make sure you keep your brand across digital assets consistent. So when they go to one side of yours or one digital asset, that they are going to still believe they're on the same location. Now, obviously in this slide here, I probably need to get rid of Google Plus because that's a dead social media platform now. But the other ones still persist. Notice that I've used different styles of my head and shoulder shot in different scenarios, but if you like the green branding, helping people reach their full potential, the Azure Power Apps, Dynamics 365, Flow logos, that type of thing, makes it quite clear that I'm into Microsoft technologies, and in some contexts, I'm you know, business tie, open collar, sometimes t-shirts, and of course representing the greatest rugby team in the world, the All Blacks jersey there, in a couple more of the social contexts. So I come back to you now. So this is time for you to introspectively look at yourself and ask yourself some questions. If you look in your box of who you are, I hope there's something in your little box, but what value do you bring forth from within you? What is your value? Because it's hard, like, you can say, well, I'm just going to create a brand, but add no value. Well, you'll get known by your brand, right? Your brand is not so much the images you create or the pictures. Even though I've showed that, it's still got to come from a central point of who are you as an individual? What is your contribution in the world? What value do you bring? You know, I've mentioned before where my wife and I were in Sydney, Australia, doing very well in our careers respectively. And then we had 4 deaths in our family. And so we decided that life was short. We started asking questions around what was the value of life, what I call asking life questions. What am I doing? Is it all about, you know, chasing the next deal, working on the next project, you know, year in, year out? And we started asking these questions. And one of the questions came out was, what value do I provide? What do I bring to the world? How am I helping other people outside of just helping myself? Meaning, helping myself as I was helping all the employers I work for, right? I was making them money. And of course, I was making good money as well. But what value I was adding to people that, if you like, weren't brought up in a white middle class New Zealand like I did and have the privilege I got, what value could I offer to other people in the world? And of course, the beauty of the internet allows us to spread our knowledge everywhere and add value and create content for people that can't necessarily get it in other means. Hence why this program is part of that. So you know, so what was this? February 2017 is when I started traveling. And I already had a blog at that time. So NZ365 Guy was set up. And what I decided to do while traveling, I was actually in the United Kingdom at the time, up in Nottingham, and I did my first podcast because I decided, you know what, I'd already been traveling for 3 months at this point, and I was like, you know, I'm going to lose touch with the whole Dynamics community. So why don't I start podcasting, inviting guests on my show? I decided from day one, I'll just invite guests and see what happens. And so I kind of drilled into LinkedIn, all my old connections, and I started booking appointments and every second week producing a podcast. And then I started a YouTube channel. So you think all these things are actually only happened in the last 2 years. It's only in the last 2 years that I started podcasting. It's only in the last 2 years that I got on YouTube and started doing something serious about it. And it's really only been the last couple of months that I've actually started seriously, consistently blogging. Yes, I've been around the fringes and the edges and spoken and things like that at different events, but it's only if like 2 years ago that I got really serious about building personal brand. So why I say this is it's not too late for you to start now, right? Where are we going to be in 5 years when it comes to Power Apps, Flow, Power BI, the Common Data Service, and AI Builder, right? Where are we going to be? It's going to be amazing. And the thing is, if you start now, you're going to be at the forefront and the lead of where all this technology is going. I'm constantly, I just love, you know, when people go, we're happy that you chose this as a career. And I'm like, man, every day I feel like it's all new. There's so much more to learn. It's so exciting. It's like, it's never ending. I'd hate to be in a role that was just, you know, being an accountant or something like that, or a lawyer, you know, same thing every day. That would not spin my wheels. I know it does for some. Good luck. So what value do you give? So I got a couple of things here, 5 things. What sets you apart from everyone else in business applications? So ask yourself that question. And everything, there's definitely things that set you apart. For one, you are unique. You have your own upbringing, your own experiences, your own life stories that you can bring to the mix of what we're doing here. What value do you provide, and how does that value differ from what is provided by others? And then how do these benefits create connections with people? Is what I'm producing of enough value? In other words, what is your standard? Don't compare yourself necessarily against somebody else. Compare yourself against where you were, let's say, last week, last month, a year ago. And is my brand in sync with how, if you like, I'm presenting myself? In other words, do my values line up with how I am presenting myself? Am I the same person at home as I am at work, as I am in the community? And that, you know, you have fundamental core values that drive who you are as an individual. So I started on this journey. So 2 years ago, I started, first of all, Dynamics 365 Practice Show. That was a fortnightly thing. Then I started the MVP Show. That was a weekly podcast. And then I started the Power 365 Show to fill the gap that the Dynamics 365 Show made. So I was now podcasting twice a week. So Tuesdays and Thursdays every week, I have a podcast go out. The Dynamics 365 Show is all around running my practice, etc., which I have a lot of experience in, so I get people aligned with that. The MVP Show was designed to help people become MVPs. So they're not designed for educating other MVPs. It's to help aspiring MVPs to learn from the stories of other people and go, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it too. And then Power 365 Show is predominantly focused on interviewing Microsoft people. And so people that are close to the product that will give us some deep insights around the technology. And so I have that all under the Microsoft Business Application Podcast. Remember, didn't exist 2 years ago. Then weekly YouTube videos. That is something I started at MVP Summit the year before last. I interviewed a whole bunch of MVPs, which have kind of morphed into then the podcast series. And then I've started this series on how to become an MVP. And who knows, once this one finishes, well, I've already got what my next series is going to be on. You know, I'm working on the content and how I will bring that. They'll be a bit longer, 10 to 7 minute length type videos around how to become an independent software vendor will be the focus of that series. And then, you know, around May-ish, maybe earlier, I started writing 2 blog posts a week, at least 1,000 words. And the thing is, I'm not naturally a writer. I'm dyslexic. I never did well at school in anything. I hated writing. And so this is really to kind of develop a new skill, which I feel like it's not that I hate writing. It's just a skill that was never developed. So I want to develop it. And who knows, one day I might write a book. It's one of my kind of lifelong goals to come up with a book, not necessarily around dynamics, but of some sort, some description. Who knows what that'll be once I've learned a few more lessons I think I'll be time to write one. But anyhow, as you can see, I'm now blogging twice a week, at least 1,000 words I try to get in those. And I try to blog on content that kind of like I know, and I'm not seeing anybody else talk about in the community. So it's not necessarily deep dive how-tos, because I just think lots of people are doing that. Lots of people are working on projects every day, and that's really, really good for them to do that. I would have done that early in my career. But where I'm at now, I'm trying to be more strategic in my thinking. And then 4 weeks ago, Steve Mordew and I started live streaming the Power Up Live show every Wednesday. We just did it earlier today. Had a few technical issues. Still haven't got the technology perfect. My computer is just not CPU rich enough to handle the buffering, but we'll get there. But once again, I'm learning something new. I'm trying something new, putting it out there, creating content that people are not necessarily accessing in other ways. And that all came off the Microsoft BizApp Summit, where we live streamed for 2 days, interviewing a whole bunch of people. And so, we're all scheduled to live stream at the Orlando User Group Summit. And so we want to make sure that by weekly practice running a show, we're getting better, we're getting more polished, we're getting experience. And then who knows, we might have a TV station in a year's time. I doubt it. We will see. Moving on, here's your book recommendation. So this book is called Linchpin by Seth Godin. And, when I owned Magnetism, I actually required anybody that wanted to be employed by me had to read this book before I'd interview them. So it was a bit of a hard task, but I like to be different in the way I did stuff in business. And it's all about, are you indispensable, and uncovering the art that's uniquely yours, right? The way the education system in our world's been run is to create people that have average skills that can produce a higher than normal outcome. Average skills, higher than normal outcome. And it's the whole industrial revolution type model that we've grown up with. And so if you're average, you'll fit in, but you're never going to stand out in life. You're never going to get ahead. You're never going to become a rock star in whatever industry you've chosen. And what I like about what Seth covers in this book is that, and I just read it again about a month ago, fresh, just to refresh myself after reading it, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. And it's so timely, and it'll help you really think about the value that you bring and the art that you create, and it's uniquely yours, and it shouldn't be a copy of somebody else's. It should be the full you being bought as part of your brand. Next, I want to talk about your home. Okay, so if I came to your house today, would you be proud of inviting me into your house, right? Most people are house proud, right? They have a nice lounge, dining room, that type of thing. The outside's nice. Maybe the lawns are done, that type of thing. And you wouldn't have trash sitting everywhere. You wouldn't have the rubbish bags all flowing over the lawns, all over the kitchen, all over the dining room, right? You'd be house proud when you came or showed off your house. My mom used to say, what would the Queen say if she came? It was like, we're in the colonies. The Queen's not coming down there. But anyhow, I digress. So now if we think of your physical house, what does your digital house look like? In other words, me.com, your brand, your website, what does it look like? If people came to your website, if you have one, and we're going to go through about if you don't, you need one, what would it look like? So here's some questions I'd like to associate with your physical home. Will your house have street appeal? In other words, its design, its theming, how it looks, that type of thing. Is it attractive? Is it easy to find, right? In other words, is the number on the letterbox clearly? And what I'm talking about here is search engine optimization. Do you have a clear .com domain name, if possible? I've told you why I thought they're important, even though, there's reasons why not to as well. Is it a place where you're proud to invite people over? In other words, man, check out my blog post on X, check out my blog post on Y, come over to my website and check this out. Or is it run down? Does it have broken links? Does it have old wallpaper? Is it unresponsive or sluggish or slow? And my worst thing that I hate in the community, there's one thing that I detest, and that is covering your home in advertisers' crap. I've been to so many websites, and for some reason you think that if you set up a cheap website, you're going to let Google place ads all over your website with AdSense. Don't do that, right? This is your brand. If you're going to make $2.50 a month off the ad revenue, it's not worth $2.50 to have that real estate in your website taken up with ads. Don't have ads on your website. Make the whole site your brand, your integrity, rather than, sometimes I go and I look at it, I've Googled a blog article and I find it and I'm just like, well, where's the article? I can't find my way through all the bloody ads on the page. So make sure you wouldn't cover your house in advertising. You wouldn't put billboards inside and outside and on the walls. And when you're into the bathroom, there'd be advertising on the wall. Don't do it. Don't do it on your digital home. Your website's the most important tool in establishing your online identity. Does it reflect you now or the new you you're becoming? The direction that you're wanting to go in? Because it might be time to do a fresh lick of paint and a fresh look at how your hub works. Now, hub, use this interchangeably with home. I'm going to use a metaphor of a wheel here, and this is all around findability and discovering, becoming discovered. So in the middle, you have your website, right? This is your home, your domain. Think of your home as a center of your digital universe, right? Don't make the center of your digital universe a social media platform. I've seen too many of them. All of a sudden the terms and conditions change on Facebook. Bang, those groups are gone. The terms and conditions change on YouTube. Oh, your account doesn't qualify anymore. It's gone. And you lose all that content. I've seen horror stories of people losing content. So own your own home. What do I mean? Go and buy a domain name, right? A .com's the gold standard, but you can choose what you want. Own your website, hosting, invest in yourself. Tell the story, so I'll give you a couple examples. I just wrote a blog post, which is going to come out in 2 days, 1 or 2 days. It's on Dynamics 365 and LinkedIn integration. And it's basically me taking a slug at Microsoft's owned it for 3 years. And is this it, right? I expected a lot more from that story, Better Together. I wrote a post about the LinkedIn integration to Dynamics when I was back at Magnetism. So I was like, oh, quick, I'll go have a look. They've taken all my content down. It's not there. Why? Because I don't own Magnetism anymore. That's not my company. I sold it. It's not mine. But the problem is that if I had built that on my own website, I would have been able to reference and say, look, here's what it looked like 6 years ago. This is what it looks like now. My gosh, not much has changed, right? And so own your own content. Make sure if you're posting for your company, put it on your own domain name, own your own domain name. How much does it cost for a domain name? $11.99. That's no more than a bucket of KFC, right? Cheap. For a whole year's ownership, $11.99 is all you're going to drop. And then if you're wanting WordPress, and why I recommend WordPress, how much does it cost? $3.95 per month. One coffee a month, you can own your own website and your own domain name for the price of a KFC bucket, right? Well, man, that's a small bucket, right? You're lucky to get 3 pieces of original roast for that. So why WordPress? I recommend WordPress. The reason is 60% of all websites in the world are hosted on WordPress. 60%. I looked that stat up. That was market share in 2018. Might have changed slightly. 6% is the next closest rival platform for websites. They only have 6%. The next rival after the 60% that WordPress have. So that's my site of choice. My preference in hosting companies, I use Bluehost as my preferred hosting company. And as I say, Bluehost $3.95 per month is what you can get that for. And I've chosen Bluehost for a couple of reasons. One, it's endorsed by WordPress. And I have been on places like GoDaddy, which I say, don't go near GoDaddy. They're thieving. They're the trolls of the internet. I have a domain name that I'm still trying to get out of them, and they just have every excuse why they won't let me transfer it away to another provider, even though I've owned it for like 4 or 5 years with them. They're just very tricky people. Stay away from GoDaddy. Okay, the other thing you get as a requirement in Google ranking nowadays is that you must have a HTTPS in front of your domain name, and that stands for secure. Right? In other words, it's encrypted, and that's a requirement to get ranked in search engines these days. You will be rejected if you don't. Just note, the Bluehost account gives you a free digital certificate with your website, so you're all covered. It's a proper digital cert, and it's included in that $3.95 per month. So own your own home. No more renting, no more leasing, no more cyber squatting on somebody else's owned assets. You own your own home. Now let's look at social. What you do then, there's a WordPress, Bluehost. What you do then is on Twitter is that you drive your tweet traffic into your home. You drive your YouTube traffic back to your home. You drive your Facebook traffic, your LinkedIn traffic, and your Pinterest traffic all back to your hub, right? So it's the center of your universe. Anytime you're talking, your profiles, etc., it points to the center of your universe. You publish there, and as we go down, we'll see then about pushing content out back to those social networks to get more engagement. But the idea is you bring everything, and this is what's called findability. On those social media, people might be searching for stuff that you create, the value you bring, and you want them to find the end of that link all the way in, bang, into your website. Now, one of the tools I use is Buffer for when it comes to publishing, right? I have a busy life. I'm doing stuff here, there, and everywhere. And the importance of when you're communicating and creating a digital presence is regularity and doing things consistently. So, for example, all my posts go live on my website at 5 a.m. New Zealand time. It's where the sun rises in the world for the start of a new day and then travels all the way around the world over, a day and a half type time frame. So I always publish 5 a.m. They're always scheduled. As soon as those posts go live on my website, then the scheduled, whether they're YouTube, they'll be scheduled on YouTube, my video clips, etc., as well as they will schedule posts out to the various social media platform that I am publishing to. So it's not that you have to do this and be like at your computer the whole time. There are smart tools out there that allow you to operate in a smart way. Think about your hashtags. What hashtags are you going to use? And this is another great way of driving traffic, because if you create unique hashtags, it's another way that people can easily identify. It can create a mind hook in their mind. And if they're not at their computer right away or not at their phone, they can go and type it in and find you around whatever content. That's why I create 90-day MC, right? 90-day mentoring challenge. The reason is I just don't want this to be any generic Dynamics mentorship. I want it to be the 90-day challenge. In other words, I've branded this program on purpose so it is uniquely identifiable against any other mentoring programs. So if there's a quality difference, I don't get tarred with somebody that might be doing a lesser quality if it's not on par with what I'm doing. That's how I use hashtags to create that separation. Okay, next, what about content creation? How do you create content consistently? Well, if we look at what Wikipedia says about content, it says this: content creation is the contribution of information to any media, and most especially a digital media format, for an end user, an audience in a specific context. So what's our context? Microsoft business applications broadly, then of course, whatever focus area that you're drilling into. So if we break this down a bit, first of all, you've got to go, okay, so who's my audience? And this here's a tool called the Empathy Map Canvas, it came out of IDEO, which was originally it is, I've already talked about design thinking, and this is a design thinking. This is a workshop tool, often drawn on a wall where a whole team engages with Post-it notes. But this is a good tool for you to ask yourself, who's your audience? What do they do? What do they see? What do they say? How do they feel? How do they hear about you? These are good questions to ask. If I look at how I apply this to me, my target audience is not other MVPs. My target audience are people that are in the community and want to learn more, want to develop their career. That's one of my target audiences, hence why you're on the call. My other target audience is system integrators, Microsoft system integrators, or people that run practices on business apps. Why? Because I've got a lot of experience in those. I can help those type of people. Those are the type of companies that pay me money that I can consult to. And then the other group is independent software vendors. So I help independent software vendors. Once again, that's my day job, or that's how I get paid, is that I consult to those companies around how they structure their business, everything from product development to marketing to engaging with Microsoft. So I'm very clear, if you like, on what my target audiences are, and you need to do that with what you're doing. What is the level? Are you there to help newcomers? I like what Eliza did, with her podcast. What the flow is, that it helps people that are starting out. How do I build my skills and flow? Is a great example. You don't have to be the person that's writing the deepest technical, most amazing posts, like Matt Barber or something that has this mind-blowing mind. I don't aspire to that. You don't have to aspire to that. You need to find out what art you have and bring that forward so people can benefit from it. Okay, so what types of content? People ask me, well, what should I do? Can I only blog post? I don't like blog posting. Well, let's look. I've got 18 things here of ways that you can create content. If you're a coder, you can do code reviews. If you're good at discovering faults and bugs in software, you could offer bug support for free. So what I'm saying is that if this is on your website, you can say, as in Daryl Labar did this for a bit, he offered code review and bug review. He's a coder and he's an MVP out of America. And he would say, submit your code if you want it reviewed, and I'll review it and I'll go through it live and tell you how you can improve on various parts. You could create code snippets and make them available on something like GitHub. You could create tools like the XRM toolbox, so other tools to extend what we can do in Microsoft Business Apps. If you're into design, you might offer app design as a way. How do you go through from start? How do you design the interface for apps? You could create content on this or even services around it. You could create new community resources. People might say, well, how do I run a user group? Well, if you know how to run one, why don't you document that? Why don't you create some content, a leaflet, a booklet, a handout, a video series, or whatever, and create some community resources? You could write a book. I think we've got a rock star on our, well, there's a guy on our call who has a wife that's a rock star that wrote a book just last year, I'd say. All right. And so, you know, she used her skill and she contributed a book. Case studies. You will have insights into projects and things that you can, you know, remove the names of the guilty and produce case studies about how are you using Power Apps in your unique way? How are you using flows in your unique way as an example? What about creating a newsletter? Guido, Italian MVP, he's got a whole new newsletter that's servicing our industry. And that's what he likes to create content around, aggregating information. What about putting on an event? Nothing's stopping you from creating events, becoming speakers at other people's events. You could do a Microsoft Watch. You know, what are they up to at the moment? I don't know if you're in partner land. Everybody's a chatter. Internal user rights have been removed for partners by Microsoft. And everyone's upset. Everyone's chucking their toys out of the cot and saying, well, I don't want to be a Microsoft partner anymore. Well, you might, if you're an opinion person, you might want to create a series on watching what Microsoft are up to. You could do what I did here, create a podcast, create some videos, put them on YouTube. You could start doing some collaborations with other people. You know, what Steve Mordew and I are doing at the moment with our live stream, we're collaborating, right? We're both jointly creating content together on this project. You could write a white paper. Someone has just recently, Andrew Welsh, just recently released a white paper on Power Apps governance. Great idea, community resource again. You could create training content, how-to videos, how-to blog posts, etc. And of course, if you've run out of ideas, you could blog. Right? So worst comes to the worst, you could blog. But there's 18 ideas that I just came up with of ways that you can create content that hopefully something in here kind of appeals to you as an individual. The next question I get is, yeah, but what do I create content on? Well, I put my thinking cap on and I just came up with a few ideas about what you could potentially create content on, right? There's a few. Pick one and just commit to it for 3, 6, 9, 12 months, whatever it is. You know, if we take second one down, exam prep, right? Who's Neil Packhurst, right? Has done heaps of content around exam prep. That's one of his things. He also does on Unified Service Desk, but he's just chosen a topic area and said, listen, I'm going to go deep on that topic. I'm going to explore everything around it and become known as the person that knows that topic. And so as you can see, you've got a myriad of things to choose from. It all comes down to kind of putting your mind in the mode of going, okay, what's it going to be? What am I going to focus on? Oops, app source there right at the end. And ... I could have come up with more, but that's all we'll go with. Anyhow, so where do you put your content out then to create a noise about it? Remember I talked about the hub at the center of the universe? Well, every time you post on your hub, in your home, you create content, you post it out on Twitter. You publish your videos, even though they're all on my blog, I publish them out to YouTube. I publish on Facebook page. Not my personal Facebook page. I have NZ365 Guy as a Facebook business page because I don't want my family killing me for talking about stuff that they're not interested in, like Dynamics and Power Apps and things like that. And then Pinterest is another one which I've only started exploring recently, but once again, it's a great search engine, just like YouTube is a search engine, where really Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn are more stream of consciousness, if you like. In other words, it's a constant feed that you can dip in and dip out, depending on whether you want to get overloaded or just want to waste some time. So think about that. I talked about driving traffic from the social media resources into your site, and then, of course, publishing then out via social media. So what should your social media schedule look like, or sharing on it? So I'm talking about publishing your content here. Notice that Twitter, you can publish way more frequently because nobody reads it in the entire Twitter feed. All they do is jump in like the water cooler every now and again, engage with some content, and then go. So what I do is that I create a blog post. I'll publish for the next 5 days at different time slots and use different quotes out of that post, but it'll all drive traffic to that one post because I never know around the world's time zones who's going to jump in. LinkedIn is a kind of one post, that's it. It's all in around creating conversation around that post. I wouldn't repeat a post on LinkedIn as such. I would do more at trying to amplify a post. Facebook, maybe a couple of times. As you can see, Pinterest, you know, you're not going to jump on Instagram and keep putting the same photo up. People are not happy. They won't engage with you on that. And as you can see, there's a whole, why I put Medium at the end there. If you've got a blog post that's going real cracker, it might be worth taking that blog post and then posting on Medium to open up a whole new audience that once again always drives back to your home and your hub. What about your content calendar? Like, how do you do stuff consistently? You don't do it by waking up every day and when you feel like creating content, you create content. You need to have a schedule. So what I'm showing you here is my schedule. As you can see, this is April, May, June of this year. So week 1 to 5 down the left-hand side, and then each segment is a week. And so if it's got P365, it stands for the Power 365 show. MVP show. D3PS, Dynamics 365 practice show. BP is a blog post, and MVPM is MVP Mondays. And then I have my topic selections that I focus on. LEA for learning, ISV for independent software vendor, PP for Power Platform, CAR for career, MR for mixed reality, and AI for artificial intelligence. And then for each week, if I look here on this week, I can see that I wrote a blog post, my first ever live stream on YouTube. Here's another, what was the other blog post here? Business intelligence and analytics. Stefano is who was on the MVP show. Donna Sakar was on the D3PS show. And the MVP Monday ran. It just hasn't had the content been updated in that. It did run on those dates. And so that's, and then the red number is basically what show number I'm up to on my podcast. So as you can see, nothing happens by default. I'm now into the next quarter. So I start at the start of the year. I break my year into quarters. I go, what are the big themes that are going to happen across the year? What are my topics that I'm going to focus on? And then I have an Excel spreadsheet, which I'm showing you here, is my content calendar. I know I'm feeding you a lot here. Let's jump in now. Switch gears to LinkedIn. What is your LinkedIn? LinkedIn is the most important platform as part of your personal brand. So let's whip through it. We haven't got much time now. And unfortunately, I've got a back-to-back call. I've got a Microsoft call straight after this. So let's get underway. First of all, do you have your link, your URL is your name. You can see in mine, NZ365 guy is part of my URL that I've created up there. If you've got some weird number up there, it means you haven't created your unique URL, which you can share with people. Next, make sure your name is clear on it. Your location, where are you located? This all affects how people find you on LinkedIn. And is your profile an all-star profile? If not, your first assignment after this is go make it an all-star profile. It'll step you through what you need to do to get to that all-star status so your profile stands out amongst all the myriad of other people operating in our space. Next, look at your profile picture. Does it have a handsome head on it? Does it have teeth showing? Are you in business attire? And do you have a nice black tie on like me? No, what I'm saying here is make sure you're business professional, right? Your surfing photo shouldn't be up here unless you sell surfboards or are a pro surfer, right? You should be in the attire that you would expect if you're going to address a new customer in a business meeting or something like that. Be professional. This is the first time people are potentially going to see you or engage with you. Make sure it looks like you're somebody that can be trusted and somebody with a real shiny head. Make sure your banner is in keeping with your brand across everything else as well. Okay, don't leave your banner empty. It's valuable real estate for you to once again build your brand and your credibility. Moving on, make sure this bit of real estate here shouldn't be your job title. This here should be feature rich with what you're known for, what value you bring. If you're a specialist in flow, that word should be up here. You know, for me, like I've stuffed the maximum number of words I can in here. Microsoft certified trainer, Microsoft MVP, pre-sales, coach, management, freelancer, consultant, Dynamics 365, cloud, Microsoft Biz Apps. Why? Because these are things that people are searching when they want to find your skills. Make sure they can find them. I've seen so many people that have their job title up here. This is not job title space. It's a throwover from CV days. It should not be up here. Other things then on your profile. Consider where your address is. Notice that on my profile, I'm saying I'm at W21AE, which is a postcode for central London. Even though I live in West Hampstead in London, I put central London. Why? Because that's where the businesses are. The businesses are not around my house. The businesses are in central London. So that's why I put it there. So when I come up in search results, I come up in that geography. If you're moving to a new country, make sure you update your location here to the new country, because then people in that area, when they search for people with your skill sets, it's going to give them these people are local to where you are. So think about where you're targeting your location. Think about what industry. I choose computer software. It's the most aligned with what we do. Here you go. Make sure your website's up there. Your company website, or the blog is the first one. Your phone number. Your Twitter is connected. Your instant messenger, if you want to provide that. Your date of birth. You know, this might be the only person, somebody on LinkedIn might be the only person to wish you happy birthday. But they can't do it if they don't know when your birthday is. So make sure you put it up there. And then this is what it looks like once you've filled in those details, right? This is like a complete contact profile. I find it so funny the amount of times that people will contact me and say, listen, you know, I just want to send you the details of the job. Can you share with me your email address? No, because you're already connected to me on LinkedIn. If you just went and looked at my LinkedIn profile, you would see my email address. It's set up in such a way it can't be harvested. LinkedIn have done that, so a bot can't harvest it. But if someone eyeballs it, they can go and see the email address up there. Also, my physical address. Why do I put my physical address up there? Because people love sending me shirts to have in my videos. So I need to make sure I make an easy way for them to know my address so they can keep sending me t-shirts. And so once again, I provide that on my LinkedIn profile. I live a couple of stories up, so I'm not worried about somebody breaking in. So those are the details to have on there. Your professional summary, make sure it's well balanced, right? This professional summary is 2,000 characters you get. So make sure you use every character in there. These should be full of keywords, because this is when someone searches for something, this is what the algorithms and LinkedIn use to feed your profile up to them. So keep that in mind. You know, I use bulleted listing my experiences, etc., or the technologies I'm working in, because if they search for it, they will find me. Choose what you want to display on your profile. You can switch them all on and off. If you look at your profile and how to lay that up, notice here that this one here, founder and CEO of Magnetism, when I started, etc., the first sentence I use is to tell a bit about the company I work for. The next bit is telling what roles I had within that company. And then the third part is my achievements. What were my big deals while I was working in that organization? So it's very clear for somebody wanting to understand your skills, they need to understand the context of where you're employed to be able to then follow through, understand your achievements, and the kind of roles that you had within that organization. Make sure you've got recommendations. Not people saying you've got skills, not saying, oh, this person's got CRM. 99 plus people said you are good at CRM. Not worth anything. But recommendations are. Right? You should have at least 15 recommendations from past employers, projects, etc., that you've worked on. If you have a look at my profile, you'll see I have my staff members. I got recommendations from them because I wanted them to be honest about how I was as a boss, right? I got them from my superiors. I got them from customers. I got them from Microsoft. I looked at all different avenues that my career touched and asked them for recommendations. And of course, always be willing to give recommendations if you honestly can give somebody a recommendation. Decide, oops, I went the wrong way. So think about that, giving them skills and endorsements. I don't really care for them. They're not worth a lot. And then check out your public profile. How does the public see you if they haven't connected to you? It's worth looking what you want switched on. A couple of things to note. At the top there is where you change your LinkedIn URL. So you create your custom URL at that point, and then decide what you want to have public and what you don't want to share. Key things here in displaying to people that are not connected to you as consideration. So what about day-to-day? How does day-to-day look like and how you should engage? If you look at how I do it, it's a bit like this. I connect with somebody. I always add a personal message. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for the meeting today. This is Cindy. She's the country manager of Microsoft. I want to do it the day I met her, right? So like today I had a call with 2 people from Ireland, a company over there that want me to do some consulting for them. After the call, what did I do within 1 hour? I sent LinkedIn requests. Thanks for the call. Good catching up with you. Bang, I'm connected on LinkedIn. If you do these things incrementally all the time, you'll soon build up a good connection. And it's the loose connections. It's not your friends that will ultimately give you the best jobs in life. It's the loose connections. This has been proved statistically. It won't be friends and family. It'll be what's called the loose ties. And once again, Seth Godin has done a lot of research in this area. So make sure you're proactively connecting with people. Man, 9 o'clock, we're done. I've got through it. I didn't even cover going in detail around Facebook and so many other things. I can't take any questions. As I said, I've got a Microsoft guy waiting on another call for me right now. I hope that was valuable. I can't wait to see you do the assignment and get back to me with any questions that you have. I hope it felt like a fire hose, because it certainly felt like I was going like a fire hose. Ciao, ciao.